All right, good morning and welcome. We're going to get started with a few items, mainly kind of the rules of the way things are going to work. I'd like everyone to silence their cell phones, please. I'll include myself in that. And secondly, there'll be time for questions after the presentation from the panel members. So if you could hold your questions till the end, we'll go through those in a systematic way and hopefully provide information about being prepared, and we'll discuss Ready Kern. We have a representative from the Weather Service. So lots of good information out there. Thank you for attending. And I'd like to first just say we have 1st District Supervisor Gleason here, and he'd like to say a few words.
Appreciate you all being here. Thanks a lot. It was a tough year. It's still not over. We still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of concerns up here. We still got to keep our level of vigilance up, looking for the aftermath and consequences of what we survived this year. We're also in the middle of a historically long drought that's going to impact us for many years. So I'm glad you're all here. We got a lot to learn, a lot of action items to take home with us and to talking about it with your neighbors, and get everybody as engaged as you are in preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and understanding that we have a team of professionals here that can't be beat. Our fire chief and our fire department are the best, and I'm here to tell you that right now. So thank you all for coming, and let's not take any more time. Let's get to work. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, one more thing too. The presentation and the meeting here is being recorded, so you can tell your friends that missed the meeting that they could find it on YouTube, on the Kern County Fire's YouTube site. So just keep in mind to let your friends know. Well, we'll get started first with Mr. Lynott. He's a meteorologist from the National Weather Service. So Kevin.
Good morning, everybody. Happy holidays. Okay, first up, so I'll try to make this pretty painless. I've been told this to pretty much talk about an outlook. We just heard, we're in a prolonged drought. That's not going to end. There's no doubt about it. From a meteorological and climatological standpoint, we're in it for a long time. So, long story short, we're not in an El Nino year like we were last year. So things have changed out in the Pacific. So it's going to look like this upcoming winter that we're probably going to have, a normal amount of storms, but we're not expecting a lot of precipitation up around this area. In fact, it's probably going to be at or just slightly below average for precipitation the way things are shaping up. Where last year, although we thought we were going to get a lot more this far south in the Sierra, it really didn't happen. Most of it happened up further north, 100, 200 miles. And then as you went down south, it kind of tapered off for the annual precipitation. So we don't expect anything more this upcoming winter into the spring months. So that's kind of how we're looking at it now with the help of the Climate Prediction Center. I can't pass around, I will here when I'm finished. It's probably best I have a few pieces of paper that give an outlook. Our Climate Prediction Center is based out of Maryland, and they give outlooks for out to a year. They give monthly outlooks. They even give 6 to 10 or 8 to 14 day outlooks. And again, they're climatological models, so there's not certainty all the time. In fact, there's a lot of uncertainty. The further you go out in the calendar, the more uncertainty there is going to be about weather anywhere across this country, including central or south central California. But I'm looking down here at these sheets right now, and again, these are the ones I'll pass out here in a little bit. It looks like we're going to be above normal for temperatures through, let me take a look here, through February. This is a December, January, February outlook I'm going to pass around. So above normal temperatures, and again, more than likely slightly below normal precipitation, rainfall, and snowfall. So you might be asking, okay, so we're not going to get a whole lot, but you got to keep in mind one thing, and I have to stress this. we do get events that do include heavy rain or heavy snow. I saw the Kern River coming up, and there's already some water there, and we'll get more water obviously in the spring months. But there's a few areas that have been identified, and I'm sure part of the discussion here today will be on Erskine and maybe even a little bit of the cedar burn scars. It doesn't take very much rain or snow. Obviously, snow is a little bit different, but rain, it depends whether you have direct runoff or it infiltrates into the soils. We have found out that through these bear teams, which I know some of you are very familiar with and may talk about here later on, that they determine moderate let me just say this, all recent burn scars contain at least moderate to high post-fire debris flow probability rating. If I remember correctly, and I'm no expert at this, and I did not get with the bear teams. Actually, my warning coordination meteorologist, Gerald Meadows, who I think will be here a little bit later for your second meeting, he's a little more in tune with what was going on with the bear teams in their report. But I think the cedar, if I'm not mistaken, has more high post-debris flow ratings, meaning that the direct runoff would be much more severe, and that would cause obviously mudslides or flooding, flash flooding. So that's something to keep in mind. Erskine, I know there were a few highly sensitive areas. Not exactly sure where they are, but again, from my knowledge, it was not as much as the cedar burn. And again, somebody might get into that a little bit later. But regardless, it doesn't take much precipitation, keep this in mind, to cause some problems with debris flow, mudslides, etc. The steeper terrain areas have to be watched, and of course any of those canyon areas around either of those burn scars. So it can happen quick. I'll finish up with it can happen very quickly. Just watch the intensity of any storm event that comes in, because we will have a few this winter. So although I've told you that we're not going to have an above normal precipitation winter, we're going to continue in this drought, again, the direct runoff that occurs from these rainfall events, it just doesn't take much. It could happen within a half an hour or an hour. We see that along the I-5 corridor. We see it down here a lot in Kern County. So we're going to watch for those storms, which will lead me to one last thing. Your emergency management team, other first responders, people that are here today, talk to them. They know us well. They're our core partners. We talk to them often. I'm always happy to pass out our number, and probably most of you don't have our number, but hopefully you do have access to the web. Just Google National Weather Service Hanford. That's all you got to do. And we're at weather.gov/HNX or Hanford. HNX is just our three-letter identifier. Take a look at our website. We've got a lot of great information there. We also do a lot of social media, Facebook, Twitter. So when we get these big events, and again, we will have a few this winter into the spring, we post all the information there. We talk to your emergency manager, and we identify the threat area, because again, it doesn't take much, and that's what you have to know. If you're a resident of this area, or just whatever might be going on up here, travelers, visitors, whatever. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Are we going to do questions now or later? So we're going to do questions at the end. We want to build a weather-ready nation. We want to focus on these high-risk areas. And again, it looks like the cedar might be one of those areas that we'll have to pay a little closer attention to. But we know what happened here over the last year with these wildfires, and being in a drought. If we don't get a lot of rain, we know we're going to be looking at starting next summer, maybe as early as the spring, and that's the wildfires. we do all that work too. You know, we have a fire weather program, extensive. We work with the emergency management here, and when we get to the, we have IMETs, incident meteorologists. We send them to the scene. We do a lot of on-site support, and that's part of our, what we call, again, Weather Ready Nation. And I want to thank you for your time. I hope to get a few questions from you a little bit later about the weather and what might happen over the next 6 months or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Great information. We base a lot of our strategy and tactics on weather, of course. So as firefighters, we rely on the updates from Hanford, and they've always been great. So next up, we have Sergeant Nicholson with Kern County Sheriff's Department. He's going to talk about evacuations.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Josh Nicholson. I'm the sergeant in charge of the Kern Valley Substation and Walker Basin area. I'm here to talk a little bit about evacuations. When the fire department calls for a precautionary evacuation, that in essence is where we show up, and it's recommended that you leave. Part of the reason is that we might not be able to get back to you if that precautionary goes to a recommended evacuation. If you are not home, the sheriff's department will leave a tag on your door or somewhere where you can see, and it looks like this. It's a red tag. It'll explain what time we came, date, and what the issue is. It'll be check marked, and it sticks to the door. During a recommended evacuation, this means you're potentially in danger and you should leave. Some of the issues my predecessors have talked to me about regarding leaving is that you should make sure that, one, you have your gas tanks are full. You don't know whether you're going to be going into town or maybe somewhere a little bit farther out. Another problem we've ran into is people taking their medications with them. If you do take medications, make sure to bring those with you. Also, another issue we have seen is animals. If you have animals, that's the time to gather them up and bring them with you. And any small items that of sentimental value to you that you don't want to be damaged due to either a flood or a mudslide, bring those with you as well. With that being said, as far as road closures go, those are going to be manned by the California Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department. For precautionary evacuations, it's a soft closure, which means that we're trying to reduce traffic into the area, and only the residents are going to be allowed into that area. With one exception to that, the media does have the authority to go in to the affected areas, whether it is a precautionary or a recommended evacuation. They are advised that they could be in danger. However, there's laws in place that allow the media to go into places that other people would not be able to go into. As far as a recommended evacuation, that's what we call a hard closure. And once we establish a hard closure, you will not be able to return to your residence for any reason. So once you leave the evacuated area, you cannot return to that until that road closure is lifted. I have seen in the past where people get frustrated with that, understandably, which is why it's important to bring those mentioned items that I told you to bring with you, because you won't be able to get back to those areas, and we might not be able to get you there as well. If you do find yourself not evacuating and you end up being in a landslide situation or a flood situation, if you have the ability to call 911, please do so. The Kern County Sheriff's Department does have a search and rescue team for swift water and mountain rescue for the areas that get affected by mudslides. That's the Sheriff's Department primary function, is the safety of life. That is our number one function. Secondary to that, we protect property. So our job, in addition to evacuations and manning closures, is to protect your property while you're not there from people who are trying to steal. So please take the recommendations very seriously. And also, I'll stress, if you haven't signed up for Ready Kern, which will be discussed later, you need to do that. That's the first alert system for folks when there's going to be a problem. So thank you, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you, Sergeant. Coming up next, we have Kern County Fire Department Fire Chief and Office of Emergency Services Director Brian Marshall.
Thanks, Jason. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here because it shows you're engaged. And we need to be engaged, and we need to partner with each other and the team of professionals that are up here in the Kern River Valley to protect you. But we can't do it alone. Every year we come up and we discuss wildland fires, and then every winter we come up and discuss flooding. Last year we were up here discussing the El Nino conditions and preparing you for the potential for large storms that dumped a lot of water, which because of the drought, there was not a lot of vegetation on the ground. We didn't see El Nino to the full effect, but it did cause enough rain where the grass grew, and that contributed to our wildland fire problem last year, or this year. Cedar Fire, Erskine Fire, those fires, plus numerous other small ones in the Kern River Valley. And all of these fires have burned the vegetation off. Some to a more high degree of soil damage, some not so much. But the soil is damaged, the vegetation is damaged, and any rain that we get could create mud and debris flow. Now, if you didn't pick up the BEAR report, which is the burned area emergency rehabilitation report that was done on the Erskine fire, it's in the back. Please pick that up because it does show where we face the potential for the greatest flood, mud, and debris flow. So I want to talk about mud and debris flow real quick. Now we all go to the Central Coast or wherever, stand on the sand, let the waves crash over, and if you're standing right there where the waves are crashing over, you know a few inches of water will actually kind of move you. Well, what we find in these post-fire mud and debris flow, it's not clean water like the ocean. This water that's going to be moving at a rapid pace is going to have mud, it's going to have rocks, it could have boulders, it's going to have burned trees, burned logs, it could even have cars, it could have pieces of houses, and you stand no chance of survival in this mud and debris flow. I guarantee you that will knock you down and bury you as the massive water moves through. So if you get nothing out of this today, nothing at all, it's all about preparedness. And we come up here and we preach preparedness every year, whether it be preparing for a wildland fire or preparing for this, the potential for mud and debris flow after the fires. Now, we're kind of focusing on the Erskine fire, but actually any area up in the Kern River Valley, because of the drought, less vegetation on the hillside, or any type of severe weather that drops a lot of water, or if we have a substantial amount of snow on the ground, and then we end up with a heat wave that melts it, and we end up with a lot of water moving. Any of those situations could end up with a mud and debris flow. How many are familiar with the Ready, Set, Go program for wildland fires? A few of you are. We have been preaching Ready, Set, Go for wildland fires. That's where you're ready. When we get a fire, you get everything loaded up, you're ready to evacuate, and if we announce an evacuation order, you go. Well, we have a new program that we're introducing today, and that's Ready, Set, Go for floods. And you should have picked up a brochure today, but it has information that will help you be ready, be set, and then ready to go. We've partnered with the Ventura County Fire Department to create this document, but this is brand new, just introduced today, and it'll be up on our website. But it gives you information so you can be prepared in the case of these flood events. Now last year, with the El Nino event, we had sand and sandbags, and we were out there helping you get ready. We still will have sand available this year. We have numerous locations: Tank Park, Wofford Heights Park, in Squirrel Valley at McCrae and Dogwood, Hanning Flat, and the Kernville Rodeo Grounds. We'll have sand. Sandbags will not be available at fire stations this year. Our sandbags at our fire stations are for our first responders. If we do get a flood event, they're going to be grabbing their sandbags and responding to the emergency. So what you need to do is go to the local hardware stores, or if you're down in Bakersfield, there's several different places that have sandbags. If you don't have sandbags left over from last year, get your sandbags, prepare your house. The Ready, Set, Go brochure has some information on how to prepare your house for the flood events, where to put the sandbags. And the goal is not to build a 10-foot wall around your house. What you're doing is trying to keep the water out of your house, where it's going to run down from the high to the low, where the water moves at its least resistant. You want to keep the water outside your house, doors, you want to block those, the garage door, and it doesn't take much to build up a wall. But you need to be prepared now. It's been sprinkling, there's some storms predicted for the next few days. The good thing is these aren't heavy storms. They're dropping a little bit of rain. Hopefully we get some sun, grow the vegetation, and get that vegetation back on the hillside, which that's really what prevents the mud and debris flow. Now, even if we have a green hillside, there's also areas that will not have that vegetation there. It may be hidden behind rocks or trees, not getting any sun on it, so the grass didn't grow. That may be where a mud and debris flow starts in a heavy rain. Excuse me. So you may think, green hillside, we're safe. Not necessarily true. This is going to be a long winter. You need to be prepared. Again, we have a lot of information available for you today on the back table, the Bear Report, the Ready, Set, Go. We'll be putting more information up on the Kern County Fire Department website as we go into winter to help you keep prepared. But again, it's the partnership with you and your first responders and your emergency professionals. So you're ready, we're ready. That way we can help you. But remember, we're an hour away from Bakersfield. That's where a majority of the sheriff, fire, and EMS responders will be responding up here in the event of a disaster. So you're going to be on your own for a while. There's not enough first responders. We don't have hundreds of first responders up here. That's why it's critical for you to be engaged. And again, thank you for being here today and being engaged. Again, check our website constantly. Be prepared. Sign up for Ready Kern. We'll talk more about that later. Buy a weather radio so you know that storms are coming. The good thing about the rain and these storms, they don't just appear. The National Weather Services are predicting heavy rains. You're going to get the information, so you have time to prepare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have Chris Neiswanger. He's a senior EMS coordinator with the county and works with public health and emergency preparedness.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for inviting public health out here to speak to you. It's great to see so many people out here actively engaged and proactively preparing for an emergency. As far as public health goes, we strive to encourage planning. We want you guys to have a plan for when you are evacuated. Who will you stay with? Is it going to be in Bakersfield? If that road is flooded, can you get through the back way to Ridgecrest where you can stay there? Have a go bag ready with supplies that you're going to need for the duration of that evacuation. A list of medications that includes the dosage, the frequency. the prescribing doctor and that doctor's contact information in case we need to get refills of things. Communication, how are you going to communicate with friends and family that you are okay? Things like that are things that we encourage you guys to take an active role in preparing for in case of an event. So, and always remember as well with the flooding and the mudslides that your water systems and sewage systems can be contaminated. If the power goes out, the food in your refrigerator may not be good to eat. Water wells may be contaminated, and you may need to have bottled water on hand. So those are the types of things that we're encouraging you guys to think about and prepare for. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have Georgiana Armstrong with the Office of Emergency Services.
Hi, everyone. I think I'm the shortest one up here, so. I just want to add a couple of things from some of our previous speakers. You may not be aware that the National Weather Service up in Hanford is not a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They are 24/7. And I can tell you that from our Kern EOC, we have called them all hours of the day, 7 days a week, when weather events are coming. And meteorologists are there to answer the phone, and we are constantly asking for updated information when something is beginning to build. So thank you, Weather Service. But one of the things that I learned from a previous event is while the Weather Service can give us information on a storm coming in, what cannot be tracked from their radar in real time is when we think of a storm, we being non-meteorologist types, we think of this one thing. But these storms oftentimes have different cells. And when a particular cell stalls and just kind of hangs out in one area rather than continuing to move, that's when we can have an increased water flow in a specific area that can create a problem. So we will have awareness of overall situations, and the Weather Service will be keeping us up to date, but we cannot predict in absolute real time what is happening in every single area within a storm. I did say that correctly, yes? So what that means to you is you need to have a general awareness of what is going on and the potential threat to you, but understand that you are also your own best expert as to what is happening immediately to your family. So please, we're going to talk about Ready Kern, but if you ever feel that it is in your best interest to evacuate or take action, do not say, but I didn't get a call from Ready Kern, so maybe I should wait. You are your best first responder, so please take that in mind. About the Ready Kern system, and let me say this a couple of times. For you, it's free. It's free. It's free. That process is funded by our Kern County Board of Supervisors, so there is no cost or fee to you to register in Ready Kern. We've got brochures in the back, and what Ready Kern is our emergency notification system. Obviously, if a sheriff's deputy or a fire personnel knocks on your door and says, it's time to leave, that's the gold standard of notification. But when we have to get information out to a large number of people in a short period of time, that's when we use Ready Kern. And what our Ready Kern system will do is we record a message, giving you a warning, giving you instruction on what to do. We fire up our system, and it makes phone calls. You can go on and register a series of numbers. Your home number, your cell number, it's capable of sending text information. And that system will call you as you have designated to give you that information. We don't spam you. We're never going to call you and say, get out and vote, take out your trash, picnic day, nothing like that. We only use Ready Kern for public safety information. We don't sell your information. We hold that information private. It is used only to get you public safety information. However, the system can only call you if you've registered for it. So I strongly advise you to do that. Now, during the Erskine fire, we had an enormous number of people who registered while the fire was burning. So while you go in and register, my staff has to get that information and take extra steps And because we were activated for the fire, my staff was working overtime and we were processing those as quickly as we could. So the time to register for Ready Kern is not when you see smoke in the air or you see water flowing out your front door. The time to register is before an event, so I would strongly encourage you to do that. One of the issues that we sometimes hear from Ready Kern is people will call us and they're very upset and they'll say, I got a Ready Kern notification and it kept calling me and it kept calling me and it kept calling me. Well, the system tells you at the end of this message, press 1, which tells the system, okay, I got the message, stop calling me. If you don't press 1, the Ready Kern system says, we didn't reach them. Let's keep trying to reach them. So please confirm you received the message, which gets the system to stop calling you. And it also tells us in our records, we've successfully given this information to this particular resident. I also wanted to add, because this also was an issue with Ready Kern, to add on to the sheriff's presentation. In Kern County, we don't use the term mandatory evacuation. We have precautionary and we have recommended, all right? I saw a lot of stuff on social media during the Erskine fire where people were saying, no, it's not mandatory. We don't use those words in Kern County. Precautionary is your early notification. Something is happening. Get ready to leave at quick notice, or if you'd be more comfortable, go ahead and leave now. When we give you a recommended evacuation, we are saying this incident is at imminent threat to you or could be at grave risk to you very shortly, and we are advising that you evacuate this area. It may be your last warning from us. So that's how that evacuation process works within Ready Kern. Chief, did I miss anything? Okay, did I mention it's free to you? It's free to you. There is no cost to you. So this is kind of a no-brainer sort of thing. We do have brochures, and we're just government going out talking to folks, but there's a lot of power in this room if you go back and you talk to your neighbors and friends and say, hey, it's free. It's a no-brainer. Please sign up for Ready Kern. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes the panel discussion. Now it's going to be open up to questions for you. So what we're going to do is we'll start with 3 questions maybe on this side of the room. We'll handle those, and then we'll move to this side. And as time allows, we'll address those questions. Brian, as far as the microphone, can I take that off? Okay. So we're going to ask that you... questions on this side, raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone to you, and we'll have someone from our panel address the question.
So I go to local hardware and I get sandbags. Am I supposed to go and fill them up and keep them like in my shed ready to go, or just have the sandbags on hand?
The question is, do I go get the sandbags and just put them in my shed? Actually, you need to prepare now because it is raining. We're in the winter rainy season. So what you need to do is figure out how many sandbags you need to protect your doors, keep the water out, garage door. Go buy those sandbags. You can go get sand. We will continually supply those locations I mentioned with sand, and that's in partnership with the roads department of the county of Kern. You need to go fill the sandbags up. You need to get your house prepped now, because as Georgiana mentioned, when it's raining and it's flooding, it's too late. Chances are, if your house is flooding, we've already activated Ready Kern, and you should be evacuating. That answer your question?
Yeah, you have a site to go and find out where the sand is located?
We will continue to put information on our website as we put more sand piles out there. But again, remember, it's on a limited availability. If we have people that are making a run on sand and sandbags because the storm's coming, again, it's probably too late. We can only move so much sand at a time. And then when we do get flooding events, the roads department is trying to keep roads open. And they're helping clear culverts and do their job. So if you're not prepared today, tomorrow may be too late.
So go to this side here?
Go to the Kern County Fire Department's website, and we will continually put information up to help you be prepared.
I just wanted to say, I've worked on fires afterwards, and after a fire, the soil becomes hydrophobic. It basically resists water, and so it doesn't take much after a fire to basically get mudslides because the soil resists absorbing the water for a while. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
If I may tag on to what you just said, that is the soil being literally burned by the fire. The fire burns so hot, it actually turns the soil where water doesn't seep in. It just runs off, starts building up the mud, starts carrying the debris, and that's where we have the problem. Different areas of the fire had different burning conditions. Obviously, a fire burning up the side of a mountain burns hotter and faster than it does backing down, depending on what the fuel and how dead and dry the fuel was. Also is how the fire burned and how much damage it did to the soil. So different areas of the Erskine fire burn different ways. So you could have some areas where the soil is intact and it is okay. You could have other areas where the soil is damaged and the water is just going to run off and create that problem. So very good point. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question on this side.
The fire repellent that was dropped by the planes during the fire, when the rain washes it down, is it toxic to the animals?
So we're talking about the retardant that is dropped by the air tankers? No, that is not. The rain will be washing it away. Some of it will remain. It is non-toxic, but you don't want to get in it. It'll turn you a bright pink, and it's bright pink so the pilots can continue building the retardant line. And again, the retardant doesn't stop the fire, it slows it down. It's actually the firefighters on the ground that get in there and put the lines, the bulldozers, hose lines, the firefighters cutting the brake. There's a lot of retardant all over the Erskine fire. So you could see some streams of that bright pink as the rains come. Stay out of it. It does stain somewhat, but yeah, you're not going to drink it. We don't recommend you be drinking it or anything, but stay out of it. Yes.
Okay, we're going to move over to this side of the room. Questions?
I think I can be heard. This is a comment to the Weather Service. No, your reporting data station in Weldon hasn't been operable for a couple of years. You've been using the data out of Isabella. I wrote a letter to your operation a couple of years ago, and it's still not, as far as I know, it's still not being reported from Weldon. And I'm assuming that your weather station is located just before you go over the hill from Mount Mesa South to Weldon itself, Goat Ranch Road.
Okay, so we have a number of different weather stations out there, most of them which we don't maintain and own. So I'm not sure if that's one or not. Probably best I talk to you after the.
Yeah, more specifically, you don't say Weldon anymore. You used to in your weather reports, and I know I've got a weather radio right here. I stay pretty handy on that. And you just had a new recording go on. That's a computer. So I know what's going on. But I think, wouldn't it be nice if we had reporting data like we used to?
Yes, and getting data is very critical, but it's also a very hard thing to do, believe it or not. You know, it takes money and resources to put in weather stations. That one there, I'm not sure. You said it hasn't been reporting, or just?
Well, you
Or has
used
it
to use
changed
it for
the name?
focus. We could say Weldon, the information from Weldon is this. And if you go on the computer online, it says we're using the Lake Isabella data for the Weldon report. So we're off by a number of miles, which is significant in the weather cell.
Yeah, in all honesty, I have to check and see what was going on, or, you know, when the data got interrupted, or what changed overall, because I'm not sure. Like I said, there's a lot of different, what we call either mesonets or weather networks that are out there, and we don't own and maintain most of them, but we have to find the right people who do. So if we know that, and it takes a community like yourselves sometimes to help us out with those types of things. So I think I can talk with you afterwards and pinpoint some things, and I can get your information back with you, because all that data is important. And by the way, I'll throw something in since you mentioned weather radio. How many of you have a no weather radio? Okay, so you listen to 162.425 megahertz, correct?
5.5.
Okay, yeah. So no weather radio is another great way. You know, it does reach into this area. We broadcast 24/7, as Georgiana was saying earlier. All of our weather data, warnings, watches, observations, that goes on no weather radio 24/7. So if something is really brewing and we're you know, keeping ahead of the storm, so to speak, then we put that information on no weather radio, sometimes live.
Repeat that frequency, please.
162 point, like it's
425.
425 megahertz. Yep.
The one up here is 162.55.
162.55, okay, yeah, either one. Yeah, that's true. 425 is Antelope and Indian Wells valleys. And yeah, so part of the Kern Mountains is 162.55, you're correct. Thank you. So either one should reach into this area, I think.
You have to turn the volume down when you hit the channel. You'll know.
Yeah, but either one of those two frequencies should serve this area. Maybe more specifically, it is the 0.55, so thank you again.
Okay, question up front.
Yes, how prevalent is it for the fire victims out in South Lake along 178 and over that hillside, that in case of severe rain, I mean, is it going to possibly flood like along Kissick Cove and Paradise Cove where that area is really burned? And if it did flood onto the highway, how long do you think that that possibly could be closed to victims up there in that area?
Even though the area may not be severely burned, remember the water and mud debris flow is going to start up higher and work her way down. So an area that may not be heavily damaged by the fire could get wiped out as the mud and debris flows down the path of least resistance. So again, you need to be vigilant across the board in the entire area of the burn. And again, it could drop water into like Erskine Creek, and we know from the Paiute fire, Lake Isabella flooded. So all of these areas face the potential impact. Now your question about is the road going to be closed? Probably yes, and it depends on what your first responders, what the roads department has to do to mitigate the incident. That road may be closed, and Highway 178 is a Caltrans road. So we're all going to be working on the emergency response part of it. So the road could be closed for several hours, several days. Again, the key in all of this is being prepared. You may have to go out the other way. If you can't get to the store, make sure you have food available that won't spoil. The canned foods you can buy. You can go on the internet, ready.gov, and look for a list of stuff, supplies that you need. So again, preparedness. As Georgiana said, it's free, it's free, it's free. We're giving you free information, but it's up to you to act on it.
And that road closure, if there was one, would be on gas roads? I mean, if you wanted to find out about a road closure on 78, how?
There's a lot of different websites that's going to have that information. Gas Roads, Kern County Roads has a website that they put information. But you have to understand, we may be closing roads instantaneously, and that information may not be updated right away. Again, stay engaged. As Deanna said, you know, you're your own best first responder during those initial activities. You know, if you see something, again, you don't have to wait for ready current. Get out, get ahead of the storm, be safe.
Okay, was there any more questions or comments from this side? Okay, we're going to go over here. I saw a hand.
Hi. The apps we have on the phone, like the Weather Channel, how good are they at predicting what's really happening?
You're asking about the Weather Channel?
The Weather Channel and I think a couple other ones. How good are they at predicting what's really happening in your area?
Well, the Weather Channel has a big picture of the nation, really. Sometimes they'll hone in, you know, on a big event in a certain part of the country. They provide good information, but they're never going to do what we can do out of Hanford. You know, we personally know all the counties that we're responsible for. You know, we have the Doppler radar. They use our Doppler radars, all the Doppler radars across the country, in fact. So they kind of, you know, patch everything together, but look at it from a national view. The National Weather Service out of Hanford really is more of a Central California, you know, where we have 10 plus, you know, trained meteorologists at our office that are really, again, pinpointing the weather and you know, watching everything as it develops or as it evolves around here. The Weather Channel is out of Atlanta, Georgia. You know, they're not doing that. They're not looking at observations every hour. They're not watching the satellite close to see where fog might be developing, for example, or a spot fire might be occurring. So in the short term, high impact type of stuff, the National Weather Service is really where you're going to get all that critical information in real time. It's not going to be from the Weather Channel. You just want to see a big picture of what's going on, maybe in California or the country, and they do fine. But we are the source, and that's why we want to connect with all of you. We connect with fire and emergency management and all those other partners. We need to have those relationships around here because we want to let everybody know we have that expertise out of the Hanford office.
And I just want to add one thing on. Our National Weather Service at Hanford also has all of our burn scar maps. So when we call them and we say, what's on your radar for Erskine, they're looking at the map of what happened here and talking to us about whether that's going to, we have particular concern on these areas. You're not going to get that kind of focused attention on weather impacts anywhere other than from Hanford. So if you're going to pick a weather source to follow and to get your information from, Hanford is the place to go.
How come you don't have the evacuation? Because I got the call and it said like recommended or we suggest evacuating. And then I called my neighbor across the street and then we were talking and saying, well, they're probably concerned about the smoke. And it didn't say mandatory. And within 5 minutes, the fire was coming over behind her house. So why don't we make it an urgent, mandatory evacuation? Put the urgency in there.
Okay, on evacuations, again, we use the recommended evacuations, precautionary evacuations. The incident drives what we do. In the case of the Erskine fire, it was moving very rapid. It had a wind on it. As we go into what this mud and debris flow post-fire, we do have some warning because we know the storms are coming. We're communicating with Hanford Weather Service, just like you can communicate with them and have that information. So if we have a storm that's coming that we predict is going to be over the Erskine Fire and possibly create a situation that could lead to mud and debris flow, your Kern County staff starts meeting beforehand. And we start communicating with the National Weather Service. We have an emergency management group, and we meet down in Bakersfield, and we start putting intel together for us. And we may make a decision to look at the area affected by the Erskine Fire and do a precautionary notice that we have a storm coming. It could lead to the potential for mud and debris flow, and we're going to try to give you that information up front. We could have a storm that's coming in that maybe is not predicted to drop so much water, but again, it's the effects of storm after storm after storm, and we could actually have the sun shining and the hillside give away. So I mean, this is serious business. But we're going to try to give you as much information up front as we have. That's that precautionary evacuation. When we go into that recommended, you should be ready to move, because we're looking at what's happening, the potential, and we're pulling the plug. It's time to go. So we're trying to do our best based on the intel that we have. That's from our firefighters, the deputy sheriffs who are on the ground, the roads department, the weather, National Weather Service. So it's a team effort. And again, we're trying to get the information out. You may get a Ready Kern message before your neighbor, you know, because it's a computer system and it's calling. So you may have it first. When you get that recommended, go. Go. I'm not going to stress that.
10 minutes of that phone call, the house crushes, everything was on me.
Exactly. And you know, again, I can't stress enough, you are your best first responder. If you see something, if you don't feel comfortable, go. Don't wait for Ready Kern. Don't wait for Ready Kern. Yes.
When I heard your question, I'm hearing the word mandatory. Okay, it's mandatory that you pay your taxes or you're going to go to jail. It's mandatory that you stop at a red light or you're going to get a ticket. Okay? When we're talking about evacuations, we're giving you information. We're not going to send the sheriff's deputies out to arrest you. It's not mandatory in the legal sense. It's precautionary. Hey, something's coming your way, pay attention, you might want to go now. Recommended. Go. Go now. We're recommending you go now. Mandatory has a different connotation, and that's why we don't use that word in Kern County. When you get a recommended evacuation, that is our strongest level of warning, and we are telling you it's time to go and it is time to go.
You see, I'm hearing you say that now, but at the time, what I was hearing was we recommend, and it's like, well, should I go or should I stay?
And we will say in our message, this is our highest level of warning, and it may be the last warning that you get.
I didn't get that.
And I will look into that, because I believe that was in our messages. But recommended is the strongest word. The media sometimes calls them all mandatory. Sometimes you hear that in the media. We don't, that's not from us. Precautionary, recommended. Recommended is our strongest level of warning.